Everybody, this is Steve with Smitty's Fly Box. This month we're going to tie a smaller stone called a rolling stone, and it's on a scud hook. And this is kind of meant to be a heavy fly that you can use Euro nymphing as a point fly to really get your fly down, or just regular nymphing, something that you can fish in fast water and get it down around the rocks and tumble around. So I'm using a tungsten bead, and that's a scud hook, and I've just put some wire on there that I just jammed up into the bead, and we'll start from there. So I'm using yellow wire. We're going to do the golden stone flavor right now. So we'll just attach our thread and take a second and anchor that wire, make a few wraps down through there and anchor that wire to the hook like so. Then we can start tying the fly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use lots of biots. So I have just some regular old goose biots here, and just fan those out so you can get a couple of them. So I'm going to take 2 of those so they form a V like that, put them back to back. Then once I've measured the length, about half the length of the hook shank, I'm going to pinch them right there, and then you can just take the butt ends and just split the hook and come around and carefully just gather those and tie those down. And we're going to tie those down all the way around the bend of the hook, just above the barb. And they should splay out there nice and buggy like that. All right, let's come back. If you have a few of those butt ends still stuck, we can trim those down. All right, so we're also forming a nice, clean, even underbody just to create that taper of a natural bug. Now, the first thing we're gonna do is take this thin skin. This is what we're gonna use for the back. And I'm gonna trim off a strip that's a couple inches long. And I wanna make sure that it's the same width as the bead. So that's my reference point, is to measure so it's about the same width as the bead. This one's slightly smaller, but I'm going to go with it. And I'm going to peel that paper off, and it should kind of curl up once you've peeled it off the paper. So I'm going to tie it so the curl is facing up, and we'll just secure that again right there at the halfway so it's hanging out the back. I want to make sure I have a nice long piece out the back. Let's return our thread right back to the halfway, and that's where we're going to tie in our wire. So I have some fairly thick wire, medium size, and I'm going to lay that wire right along the shank of the hook. It's pretty thick wire, so make sure you lay it there nice and straight right along the side of the hook. That way we keep that same taper that we've already created. And we'll tie that down all the way to the back and bring our thread right back to the middle section. Now we can begin wrapping the wire. So we're going to do this kind of copper john style, trying to make a nice even wrap wire underbody. And what we'll do is let's make 3 wraps, and then we'll lay down that thin skin and make 1 wrap over the thin skin, pull it back, and continue working our way up. So that's how we create that segmentation. Make 3 turns, 3 wraps. On the 4th one, we'll pull that over. Pull it back and just work our way up, creating the abdomen of this fly. This one I'm going to do 4 just to space it out a little farther as I work my way up. We should end up fairly close to the halfway point. Let's do 1 more down. Sorry, I keep bumping the camera. Pull that back. All right, now let's just make a couple turns up in that area just to secure that down. And now we can hold that tight with our right hand. Drop our thread over with our left hand and secure that wire down. like so. Now we can trim that off. Use a bad pair of scissors or wire cutters or something to trim that off. All right, I'm gonna make just a bunch of turns right there just to secure that in like that. Now it's a good idea to put a little super glue. I'm just gonna hit that with just a little bit of super glue in that underbody area. Let that soak down in there. All right, now we need to work on the thorax. So what I'm gonna do is now I have this top piece, I'm gonna fold that back and just bring my thread back and make a couple turns. And I wanna be about halfway right in that area. And that's where I'll start building the thorax of this fly. So the first thing I'm gonna do is put on some legs. So we're gonna do our first set of biot legs right there. So let's take two. So I've got two biots. We're gonna form our V. Place them in there. I want the tips to be about to the end of the fly. Then I can just pinch it right there. Couple turns. And now we can trim off the excess. Like that. Now let's do a little ball of dubbing. Just a really small, just enough to kind of cover up what we've already tied on. Again, I don't need much, just a couple of turns. Let's come in here and just a couple of turns right there. And then we're going to fold over our thin skin. Like that, a couple turns. We'll come forward just a ways. And then we're going to actually fold it right back over and double it back and make a couple turns right there. All right, and that formed our first kind of segmentation. Let's repeat that step. We're gonna do another set of biots, another set, line them up, and then measure them. Now I want those to extend just about almost even with the first set, like that, just slightly behind. And we can just make a couple turns, tie those down, and they should flare back in that position. Okay, we can trim off the butts. And let's go with our ball of dubbing. Just working my way forward. Now we're going to pull over the thin skin. Tie that down. We should almost be pretty close behind the bead. Now when I double it back, I'll just come back just slightly right there. Okay, let's do our third set of legs. So we'll come in with another set, split those, measure them about where we want them. Once we have that, we'll make a few good turns right there, come forward just slightly. We can trim off those. We should be pretty close to the bead now. Okay, and we'll add our ball of dubbing. There. Okay, now optional, but I like to do it. I'm going to put a set of antenna on there. So let's just take two more. And we can do these one at a time. I'm going to have them splay out outside the opposite direction. Just a little antenna right on each side. And you're going to have a couple little butt ends sticking out. Just come in there real tight and trim those down. And then let's just add a little bit more dubbing on there to cover up those butt ends. And clean up right there behind the bead. Now we can pull over for the last time. We can pull over for the last time right there behind the bead, and we should create a little yellow collar up there. tighten that down. Pull the thin skin up and just come straight across. And we'll make a few more turns, seal that off, and then we can maybe hit it with a little glue or head cement. And we've got a smaller stone that has a pretty good profile. Sometimes we can pull these legs back out and give it a little, where we've manhandled them a little bit. So it's a heavier stone, and we call it the rolling stonefly because it gets down there deep, quick, and kind of rolls around and gives you a different golden stone style of fly.